Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Carm Capriato, Town Hall Academy. Heck, what number are we in? 224. You know what that means? It's 224 weeks of loving to do this for the industry as we bring a single subject and we have a forum and we bring on some guests and we kind of tear this idea apart and share some great wisdom. Good to have you all here. We're going to talk about comebacks, prevention, reputation, and cost. I am regretful to say, everyone, that the last time I did a show like this was episode 62, and we're in 225, right? And it was April of 2018. I had Joe Marconi, John Long, Gary Keys on. And although we've talked about comebacks and quality controls over the last few years, I've never really done an episode just on this. I have a let me see. We're brought to you, as I think you all know, from the Remarkable Results Radio Podcast Studio. If you're on with us on Facebook, even if you're watching this replay over the weekend, give us a like, a comment, share this at any time. That would be a really wonderful thing. Appreciate that. Don't forget, we're live each and every Friday at 12 noon. I would love to introduce my panel to you. I have three wonderful people, aftermarket professionals. With me is Bruce Howes from Atlantic Motor Car. Let me see, Bruce. That is Wiscasset, Maine.
Wiscasset, actually. It's an Indian name that means turn in the river, is what I was told. So
a turn in the river.
Turn in the river.
How cool is that? Well, welcome, my friend. You've been on only one other time. I'm remiss by not having you on more often. Tom Lambert's here from Shade Tree Automotive, Layton, Utah. Hello, Tom. Tom's always a great contributor to the show. I appreciate all that you do for us, Tom, and share your great wisdom. One of the best episodes of recent times was on the loaner cars. Boy, that was so cool. And a brand new face to the podcast, Russell Crosby from Russ's Wrench in Clinton, New Jersey.
That's right.
Nice to have you, my friend. Good to have you here. Last minute addition, because we had, every once in a while life happens and you're filling in, Russell, but this is good stuff. I would love to right now just pay homage to the great sponsors that bring you this show. Here's something to think about. How often do your advisors play phone tag? Every ring, every voicemail, it's time ticking on a stall job. Well, Shopware's digital communication is really as easy as the customer clicks yes. Find out more at getshopware.com. And is your marketing company sharing the same vanilla social media posts for you that they do for every other shop? Well, that's not how Shop Marketing Pros does business. Now, they believe each shop is unique with its own story. So contact them today on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. Just tease everyone with next week's Town Hall Academy, Building Trust, Customer Trust. Ken Greffin, Sam Craven, Greg Bunch are going to be with us. That should be really cool because it's something that we all want to do. And I have a really neat episode coming up soon in Remarkable Results Radio. It's called Just Drop Your Keys, right? Just drop your keys. Customers, can we get customers that can do that? Most of the whole part of that episode was about trust, building trust in relationships. Russell, since you're brand new with us, let's start this rodeo out. What happens when we don't meet customers' expectations?
Well, I think when we don't meet the expectations, we're talking about trust. There's a lack of trust there, right? So we're trying to build this rapport with, especially new customers that are walking through the door, and for shops in this era where we're really trying to get what we should be paid. We're working towards really getting up to the industry standard of what we're worth. And if we're dropping the ball and not meeting those expectations, it makes it so much harder to actually hit that goal, right? But I think more importantly is that's when we have those customers actually come back through the door. What happens when the new customers don't come back, and what are we actually losing there? I mean, that's terrifying to me. If we didn't meet an expectation and we don't get the opportunity to actually make it right,
Are you calling the customer within 2 or 3 days of every customer that you dealt with just to double check? Because if they're not happy, something happened, and they just say, "Oh, forget it. I'm not ever going back there." I mean, that happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. And those follow-up calls are key. I mean, I think we need to focus on, and I think all shop owners have fallen guilty to this at some point where we're calling to say thank you, but we ultimately are talking about maybe their next appointment and coming in, where it really should just be a thank you call. Like, hey, thanks. Really appreciate you coming in. And that call right there, if there was an issue in the service, we could probably draw it out, but yeah, those follow-up calls are key. Absolutely key.
Tom, I'd like to follow through with you on that follow-up call. Do you guys have a proper procedure on that?
We do. Speaking of which, though, we don't really put me on the spot. We don't follow it very well as far as our follow-ups. We do a good job email and text, but actual phone calls, to be honest, we haven't been doing a good job of it. And we need to, just because when we do it, it makes a big difference. An email or a text is very impersonal. A phone call really kind of closes the deal, whether it was a good interaction or a bad.
So what I'd like to find out is if we're calling or we're texting or we're emailing, what's the percentage of customers that do have a problem? We'll come back. Is it 80%? Come back. Hey, fix this. It's not right.
I would say when you can actually get a customer to admit that there was something that didn't go quite right, I would say 95% of them, once you have that conversation with them, will bring it back. And if you do it, some of my best customers have come from one of my biggest mistakes and how we took care of it. So as long as the problem is a lot of customers just won't even let you know. Like if you missed something or they felt slighted or whatever, they won't grace you with even a comment of what you needed to do to save the business. So if you're reaching out to them, you can get them to actually openly give you feedback. However you react to that feedback usually ends up being a positive thing in the end. I would say 99 out of 100 times. 1 out of 100 times people are just mean, and that's okay.
Thank you for that. There's so many things I want to cover here. Looking for improvement, finding out really where the error was. Was it on the technician side? Was it on the part side? Was it on a failure to communicate between the front and the back of the shop? Bruce, I know at your place, you are so big, and I believe Russell and Tom are on QC, quality control. And even if there may have been a misstep under the hood, and you do drive the car and you do have your QC checklist, you still get comebacks, right?
Yeah, they're going to happen from time to time. I mean, unless you're going so slow that you're checking every car to the nth degree, it's going to happen. And some problems, frankly, are problems that just don't always manifest themselves, even during the quality control process. We like to say we have 3 steps of quality control. The first step is the technician driving the car to verify the correction. The second step is our QC guy going through a checklist. Just like pilots have a checklist, we have a checklist on every car that goes out. So it gets checked by another independent person. And then on new clients, and then those jobs where you kind of go, it makes a squeak at 3 o'clock in the morning when the Yankees are on the radio. Those type of crazy things, I'd like to have a senior service advisor go drive the car. We used to drive the car with the client before COVID, because that was the affirmation. The client went for a ride with the advisor. The client would go, yep, the noise is gone, or the hesitation to go on, or whatever it was is gone. But since COVID, it's been difficult to do that, and understandably so. So we have the senior service advisor go drive the car. Often, if it's a new client or it's a big repair, I encourage the guys to give the keys to the client at the counter before they pay for the repair and say, Mr. Jones, I'd really like for you to go. This has been checked 3 times by us, but I would really like for you to go and drive this yourself, just as a final thing before we take any money from you, and make sure you're 100% satisfied. And that to me is kind of the ultimate trust. The guy's leaving my shop, hasn't paid a dime for the car, and obviously you have to be discretionary in this. But we're all about trust. We're all about relationships, and that's the ultimate way, I think, to start that, especially with new clients.
Tom, help me understand the power and the value of using digital vehicle inspections to minimize comebacks.
Well, first of all, you're going to get candid answers out of me today because I think I mixed up a couple podcasts. So when I sent you over my talking points, you were probably wondering why the heck I was talking so much about digital inspections. But that being said, utilizing digital inspections can help with comebacks just because it actually, for me, it helps me with accountability on comebacks. So, oftentimes as the advisor, you'll go, you'll have a car come back, go and talk to your technician about it. Oh, I told you about that, or, something along those lines. So having that, being able to pull up that original report and actually look through it to see, okay, was this a comeback due to the technician missing something? Was this a comeback due to us, our advisor miscommunicating something, or was this a actual, parts failure or something like that? So as far as just remedying and updating your process to avoid comebacks, digital inspections actually work very well in my shops. So
Guys, I want to drill down a little bit of the why and the how here. Okay, maybe not as much as why, but the how right now. If you get a comeback, are you opening up a spreadsheet? Are you logging it? Are you writing down? Okay, everybody's shaking their head. Okay, great. Let's dig into this. Let's share to the industry what you're doing tactically, if you will, to solve the strategy of QC and comebacks, because there's got to be trends that bubble up. Be it if it's the manufacturer, it's the part supplier, be it we goofed up because we didn't communicate correctly. We wrote 3 words on the work order and it went back. It's our fault for it not getting fixed because we didn't communicate well. And then maybe there's a tech thing. And then how do we get up and over I'm not being negative here, the ego of the technician who basically says it couldn't have been me. And if it was, that happens every 100 repairs, but that's still not good enough. So let's dig into the tracking piece here. Russell, I saw you shaking your head a lot.
Yeah. So, to kind of piggyback off of what Tom was just saying, digital inspections are beautiful for exactly what you're talking about. So not only do they give your team the confidence, like, hey, we did notate this your technician specifically, we notated that this was a problem or that we actually did this. It gives your whole team confidence when they're having to stand in front of that customer who's saying that this issue is continuing. But for us, on our digital inspections, we have a section just for quality control. So if we do see something that was missed from the technician, the QC person is now documenting it, and we have that so that we can compile this data and say, hey, look, we're noticing that this technician is consistently doing the same thing. How do we train them so that this doesn't happen again? All right. Even that's before it even leaves. And when it comes back, we keep a pretty simple comeback log just on a Google spreadsheet or something along those lines. And we could document, time when it was repaired, when it's coming back. Was your technician going through something? Right now I've got a guy out in the shop that's buying a house, a very stressful time for him. So we had a little bit of a goof, nothing major, but we wrote down, what happened, and this is probably the cause. We talked with him, this is what's going on. So that's kind of a hard training thing, right, to overcome. But we know that this was a situation where he was just unfocused for that moment. So I think utilizing tools like digital inspections and those spreadsheets can really identify exactly what's causing the comeback, because we hire skilled people, right? And they won't in the shops that are here today, and the ones that I'm sure are listening to you, they're not hiring people that can't do the job. So we need to figure out what's actually causing the problem, right? So I think it comes down to training and just really logging your data, what's happening.
Tom, Bruce?
I would say 2 things. I'd say the DVIs are incredibly powerful. We actually, before we went to Techmetric last year, in May, as a matter of fact, we were still doing our we used to call them CMIs, doing CMIs on paper. And, I've been doing that for 30 years. It was known, the guys liked it, it was simple. But the DVIs are an incredibly powerful tool, and as progressive as I am with technology, I've resisted doing that for a long time, but they're an incredibly powerful tool. But even before the car gets in the shop, I would throw out this, and maybe I'm premature in mentioning it now, but many things that are interpreted as comebacks, at least in our experience, are things that didn't get conveyed correctly to the advisor, or the advisor didn't correctly convey to the technician, or the client maybe didn't entirely be forthcoming in what's going on with the car. And by that, I might mean somebody may call and say, hey, my check engine light is on. And we always ask a series of questions, kind of like the newspaper thing. Why, where, when, what, and how has anyone looked at it? Has anything been done on it? And, most clients want to get things correct, and they'll tell you the story. Sometimes they'll even bring in old work orders. But often we see a lot of cars that have been at other shops and had unresolved issues. And those are the ones that are difficult, right? The simple brake services, maintenance services, things are easy to do. I think the comebacks that probably most of us deal with are the problems that are the intermittent things, the things that happen, once a week, or the things that happen when it's raining, and, but you can't replicate that in the shop. So my primary thing for comebacks, and I'm always telling my guys, and it's kind of written down as our process map, is you need to have as much detail as you can to convey to the technician. So if you write check engine light is on, you're almost setting yourself up and your tech up for failure. If you write check engine light is on, it comes on occasionally or intermittently, tends to occur on cold mornings. This vehicle has been seen at 2 other facilities. These parts have been replaced. The attached service orders are there. Then you're really setting everyone up for success. So I love DVIs. They're an incredibly powerful tool. But DVIs to me are an affirmation, maybe the second confirmation of what should be collected from a data standpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would say in tracking our comebacks, I would say it seems weird, but advisors cause the equal amounts of a comeback as the technician, even though the advisor's not doing the work. Having the right info from the customer, spending that time to dig in. It's every once in a while you get a customer that almost thinks like if they don't tell you what's going on with the car, it's going to be cheaper to fix it. It's almost like you got to be Sherlock Holmes in the office to just get what you need, but your tech needs that, and then I've been out in the shop helping, techs, and when you don't have those notes and then you all of a sudden decide to just go call the customer and they give you that one little piece of info you needed, it just changed your life. So yeah, I love that, talking about the advisors getting the right info right out of the gate makes everybody's life better.
I'll give you a quick example. We had a client with a Mini Cooper that had come in, and I don't recall the exact conversation, but essentially she said it's always been serviced at the dealer. Nothing's ever been done to it other than maintenance. Well, it turned out the windshield had been replaced, and it turned out the people that did it, which was a glass shop, had left out a piece of ceiling trim, and water had run in. The car was towed in for a no start issue, and it wasn't related that there was water on the floor, and the client may not have known about that. But the water got into the central electronics control unit. It made a mess of a number of different things. And, when we asked the client, she didn't volunteer that. So my tech, fortunately, the DVI found it and found the gap in the seal and was able to show the client with a photo and, acknowledge that. But again, just exactly what Tom said, I tell people it really doesn't cost any more. If I sense someone is reticent to share or they're hesitating on sharing data or background, it really doesn't cost any more to tell us what's going on. As a matter of fact, it often saves everybody money. We do a thing in the medical field where we do, patient background, we do medical history. And usually people are very forthcoming about that, although, they'll never tell you they smoke or they do whatever. But often it's funny with car people, and not all of them, but it's always the tough problems. The people hesitate to tell you that the car has been at 4 other shops and it's had all these things done, and it makes everybody's job difficult. And so, to Tom's point, the advisors are responsible. I've got great advisors. I love my team, but sometimes half the challenge is building that rapport with the client to say, "Hey, it's okay to tell me all this stuff. It helps me help you," right? So that really is where it fundamentally starts in my book.
I think that what you just said, Bruce, is so true. Like the trust that you need to build with your clients, especially new ones coming in when they're having these problems. If you're not asking those questions, and they feel, they feel like they're cheating on you, and they haven't even really done anything with you, right? They've been seeing another shop. Oh my God, I can't believe they've been going somewhere else. It's, but I think you're spot on with, you have to build that rapport, and you have to give your advisors the ammunition they need to be able to ask the right questions. If you just say, hey, ask these questions, but don't have a procedure in place for those questions, it's never going to work, and it's not going to be a uniform process, because the one advisor is going to ask one way and someone else is going to ask it a different way. But I think we really need to give our team what they need to be able to get that information out of the customers.
Thanks for this, guys. I know you all have something to say, but I love this conversation. I want to take what you said, communications part technician, and I want to ask you all, what percentage of a comeback is communications part or tech?
For me, I think ours is something like 70% of our comebacks are communication, somewhere, either communication, including customer to advisor, advisor to tech, tech to advisor. So that's, honestly, I feel like just shops in general, that's usually the problem. If somebody's upset about something, it's usually communication. So
I would say I would agree with that. However, in recent months, parts have been a bit of an issue too, because we're having to buy from suppliers that we haven't bought from before, and we're realizing that, as much as we try to buy the same quality that we've been purchasing, it's really getting tough. So I think I don't have a percentage on that, but I'm starting to really see that parts is becoming a problem, where it wasn't as big of a problem before. But I would agree that communication is typically the main issue of a comeback.
Okay, well, we're all in agreement. Like, let's call that 70. Russell, you've had some part issues lately. Could we label that 20%?
I would say that would be a fair number.
And then technician issues or problems, 10%? Does that feel right?
It's a small amount. I think it's a small amount, Carm. I think it's in that 10% part. Certainly it's smaller, I think, than parts comebacks, because all of us want to fix the car. I don't think any of us have employees or staff members that don't want to deliver a perfect product to the client, right? So it's, and the tech issues, this is my personal take, not to belabor a point, but I think the tech issues usually fall into the area of training, or the tech isn't given the right information about when the problem occurs.
That's a great point. We all talked about communication, and if it's front to back to front, and you can blame it on the tech only if the communication was wrong. I mean, I guess so. That's an interesting gray area there.
Yeah. If you've ever seen our service orders, we have very verbose descriptions about exactly what the technician's expectations are for any job, whether it's doing a simple brake service, whether it's doing a maintenance service, even an oil service. We have a lot of text in there, and it does two things. One is it builds value for the client. The client doesn't see, we've all seen those work orders, brake service, $550, and that's all it says, right? If you look at my brake service, there's about 20 lines, and it begins with road test the vehicle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a process that we go through. I'm huge on checklists and processes, as you know, and that's a process that assures a uniform product, right? So if we go to McDonald's, we always get the same burger no matter where we go. Not that I'm a fan of McDonald's, but I want to make sure that we have that consistency baked into our system. So that's down as an expectation of the technician. And then for comeback issues, usually somebody skipped a step that was documented on there. Or if it's one of those weird problems we talked about where the client didn't relate all the information, that may not have gotten noted in the original part. If you ever see a work order that I've written, there's verbose descriptions. It's not just a check engine light. It'll be 10 sentences. My feeling is the more information, the better. And then if the problem does occur, we can always have that discussion. Mrs. Jones, you told me this only happened at certain times, et cetera, et cetera. And it helps build affinity with the client. None of us want to make a client wrong. We want to keep that whole trust relationship going. And if the client sees this has all been documented, their description and all that, it really helps if there is a problem later.
Got it. Hey, I want to take a break for a quick minute. We'll come back for segment B. I love where this is going. Thank you so much. Let's face it, technicians are your inventory of time, and it's the only inventory that expires every minute of every day. Maximize sales and speed to get the cars moving through your business faster. Learn more at getshopware.com. Hey, and when somebody searches for a shop, who are they finding? Your competitors? Well, it should be you. The good people over at Shop Marketing Pros know how to drive website traffic and make Google work for you on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Hey, Russell, I want to go to you. One of the things that Bruce said was write it down. We did a show, I can't remember how long ago, but we had service advisors on, and they were adamant about writing a novel. Bruce, to your point, write a novel. It helps everybody, and including the customer. Do you guys do that?
Absolutely. There was a time where we would have our advisors, take the description from the customer, put it down, and then our advisors would get upset when the technicians aren't really writing up the repair order in a way that was clear for the writers to sell the work, right? But then you take a look at what was given to the technician, and it's like 2 sentences: the check engine light's on, check engine light's flashing, I hear a grinding noise. It's very vague description of what's going on. So we've really stepped up our game in the office on specifically asking these questions. What were your weather conditions? What were you doing when it happened? How much fuel was in the vehicle? Do you remember how fast you were going? Where were you driving? And really opening up that line of communication with the customer, getting them talking. Something that I'm sure both Bruce and Tom have noticed is some of the younger generations don't like to be on the phone very long. They want to just tell you they have a problem with their car and they want to get off the phone immediately. So we really need to give our writers the opportunity to keep them talking. So we really ask a ton of questions and then get it all down on that paper. The more info you can get your technicians, the better they're going to be able to do their job.
Yeah. Did you see the comment from Matt Olhert? Audio recordings. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's a powerful tool, recording those conversations, because as good as we can be at taking those orders in, we could have missed something. And before you call the customer back and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, what did you exactly say? We can go back and listen to that audio before we call and kind of put our foot in our mouth and they say, oh, I told you this, so it kind of gives you the opportunity to double check the writer's work also. And it protects you if the customer says, I told you that, and it wasn't there. You're building confidence in your writers that they feel empowered when they call the customer. They can have maybe that tough conversation. Well, I need you to give me a little more,
There's a great tool. There's a question, 2 ways to ask a question, right? So there's a yes and no, and then there's an open-ended question.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it's important when, as an advisor, and actually it's important in any form of communication we have with another person, is to always ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions give the other person a chance to say things in their words, and we don't want to be like, the prosecuting attorney on the stand, yes or no answers, right? We want to have a discussion with these people. We want to build a rapport. We want to build a relationship with these people. And more importantly, we won't let them feel like, we're having an interactive conversation. They've been heard. We understand their problem. I try to be polite and respectful, but I don't have a problem with a new client spending 10 minutes on the phone with them, because I'm building a rapport with them. I'm building a relationship. I'm translating value. I hate to use the term selling. But I'm sharing value. I'm sharing assurance, right? Because when people call you, when new clients call you, and they're often referrals in our case, but sometimes, they've got a mailing or other marketing piece from us. Most people are not looking for price. What they're looking for are, you fair? Do you know my car? Are you going to treat me well? Are you going to stand behind your work? That's really the client that we're looking at. And I need to convey those values, that you matter to us. Your car matters to us. We want to take care of you. We want to meet your needs. We have a tagline in our business, caring for cars and people. And so Landing Motor Car, caring for cars and people. And that's really kind of our ethos. And that caring thing implies a relationship, right? It doesn't imply a transactional type, relationship where you just go in once and you go here and you go there. It's a relationship. Hey, I have a problem with my car. I'm going to call these guys. If I hit a deer with my car, somebody backed in my car, I'm going to call these guys. They don't do body work, but they're going to know who it is. And that's how I know when we have a great rapport. You talked about key drop earlier, Carm. When a client comes in and they spend more time telling me about their vacation or their son's baseball game or whatever it may be, I know I've got a great rapport with that client. And that's the client, if a comeback does occur, they're going to give us grace. And that's the client that's going to share openly and honestly about what's going on with the car, where's it been, things of that nature. So building that rapport, I would suggest to you, is very, very key to comebacks. We've already said technician error is a very small part of what the problem is. The next thing is probably parts. But most of it, I think we've identified, is communication.
So Bruce, I love what you just said about you like spending that 10, 15 minutes with new customers. I picked something up from my friend John Long, and I know Carm, you said he was on your show here. John said something to me one time, and it was, let your advisors advise. I feel like some of our service advisors are tasked with too much. They're tasked with trying to put these estimates together, tasked with trying to talk to the customers, answer the phone, schedule people, and they have a lot on their plate. And I feel like that's where a lot of the miscommunication comes from, because we're just asking a lot of them. So, if you're running into that issue, I think that bringing on someone else to help answer the phone, field those phone calls, or training someone else up to help alleviate some of that stress that your writers are dealing with, that could help a lot with communication errors. And we applied that here, and I got to tell you, it's really helped out a lot. We've got somebody answering the phones, and somebody else just building estimates and dealing on the technician side, and it's really been a great transition from what we were doing before, where you're rushing those phone calls because you've got another phone call coming in, you don't want to miss the phone, or I think giving your writers the time to talk on the phone, telling them it's okay, will really help with some communication issues.
Excellent point.
Yeah, Tom, I want to ask you this question about new customers and loyal customers. Do we seem to tend to worry more about that new customer than our trusted loyal?
I would say that would be bad, right? That's a bad message to give if you are doing that. I value my customers that have been coming to me since I had long hair and baggy pants. I like those customers that were coming to me way before I even deserved it. And obviously I value a new customer too, because it's a new opportunity. Who doesn't want to meet new ones? But anybody that walks through my door, I take it personal if I can't keep them for life. Like once you're here and you know me and trust me, we need to communicate with each other good enough to where we're lifers. You got to see me through to retirement. So.
That was the answer I was looking for. Now let's go back to this spreadsheet, gentlemen, analyzing comebacks, communications part, technicians. One other thing I want to throw on top of this to spice it up a little, salt and pepper, is labor claims. But then let's not cover that. But yet it's there. Okay. It's there, because this is all about how to prevent that. You can file for labor claims later. When you take a look at that, and is that part of your daily, weekly meetings, the things you work on in your company? Do you sit, guys, and just we've got a spreadsheet, we're following through on this thing, but we never bring it up?
Well, that's the end part of the management cycle, right? If you're a leader, the management cycle is you set goals, you measure them. Well, take that back. I skipped a step. You set goals, you get your team to buy in, then you measure those goals, and then you provide feedback. So if you're going to have goals of tracking comebacks and what are we going to do about them, but then you don't meet and discuss what the results are and give feedback, then you shouldn't even do it. It's a waste of time. and that lowers you as far as your management leadership skills. So we talk about them. Honestly, I kind of have a different view than a lot, I think, maybe on comebacks. I don't really care too much about comebacks. I mean, I do, but here's my theory. If we were to set up our shop to never have any comebacks, we would never get a dang thing done. We would lose so much money that whenever I have a newer technician that is very particular, he's usually the least productive guy in my shop. So I have to usually go and coach that guy to make a mistake, break something. Let's screw something up together. So I would much rather have my guys get through 19 out of 20 jobs and screw something up on that 20th job, because we will be so much more money ahead on productivity on those 19 than spend extra hour on 20 jobs and never have a comeback. So there's a fine balance there of being financially smart and comeback. So I would encourage most shop owners to not focus too much on it. You know, if it gets out of hand, then you need to worry about it. But my theory is make your money up front, and then when something goes south, just fix it, take care of it.
Well, that dives into your culture then too, right, Tom? Because your team knows if they make a mistake, they're not going to get booted out the door. You're embracing the idea that, look, I want you to try new things. I mean, clearly all of us took risks in opening a business, right? So like we need to encourage them to take risks and try new things. And that's the only way they're going to learn is by failing. And at a conference that I was just at, something I picked up there was just get them to fail faster so it doesn't hurt as long.
Yeah. I had that conversation with a technician the other day. I said, so when you make a mistake, if you misdiagnose something or you break something, and you have to come tell me, what happens? And there was just a long pause. So do I yell at you? Do I shame you? No, we usually make a joke about it and I order the part and we fix it. And then we don't even talk about it again. So like, quit being worried about making a mistake. Go out there and break some things if you need to, you know what I mean? So you got to get most technicians, all good technicians want to do a good job. And you don't need to harp on worrying about little things that come back. It's going to happen. So
Absolutely. So
we like discussing these comebacks in one-to-ones, our weekly one-to-ones with my shop foreman and the technician. I think, I don't like to do it in a group setting because at that point it's kind of like you're killing your culture at that point. But like I said before, we've got one of our technicians buying a house. It's a stressful time. He had a little incident, and he'll know now he's got to stay a little focused. But it's not worth killing your culture over a simple mistake that really it didn't cost anything. The customer's not hurt. They're happy with the job, and we're doing the right thing. And I think that's huge. And bringing it up into one-to-ones is the time to do it.
This is a great little segment that we just had here. I mean, very revealing, very right. It is the perfect time for me to give you this Vince Lombardi quote that I have. It's going to land right into your laps here. Are you ready? Vince Lombardi: perfection is not attainable, but if you chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Ain't that cool? Hey, let's come back we're going to come back for segment C, which I'm going to call Last Call. Hey, how much paper have you touched today? Those are piles of time stacked all over the shop. Now think of what you could do with that time and how many more cars you could get through the door. Cha-ching. It's time for a digital shop management system. Go to getshopware.com. And if your customers want you to do what you say you're going to do, it should be the same with your marketing company. Shop Marketing Pros listens. They care, respond, and quickly do what they say they'll do on the web at shopmarketingpros.com. Hey guys, this was great. Let's do last call. Spend as much time as you care. We'll summarize this. Anything that you didn't cover, anything you feel that you'd like to put a bow on. We'll go to Bruce first. We'll go to Tom, and then Russell will have you back clean up. So Bruce?
Sure. A phrase you and I spoke about earlier, Carm: progress, not perfection, right? Kind of goes to the Vince Lombardi quote. So every day make progress. We're never going to hit perfection, and we're never going to be perfect. But and that goes for technician hours. That goes for comebacks. It's how we deal with that stuff. Are we dealing with it with grace to our clients? if we deal with a grace to our clients, we're going to deal with a grace to our team members. It's a company culture thing. I'm a huge fan of goal setting. I'm a huge fan of measuring things, because if you can't measure, you can't manage. But set goals for your techs. Comebacks, we don't have a direct way of measuring them because they're not frequent enough. What I look for is not so much the comeback, but I look for the trend. Is this an individual that is continually struggling? Is this an individual that needs training? I have a phrase I often use, untrained or unwilling. I can only fix one of those. I can fix the training. If it's an unwilling situation where the technician or the other team member, because we don't want to keep blaming this on techs, can't correct something and he's got proper training, then that's the wrong person in the job. But I think that occurs rarely. I think if we have good hiring, we have an excellent company culture, we're going to find that 90% of the time this is a training issue, and most comebacks, aside from parts, are going to be training issues. And so your company culture is going to set the standard for all this.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Last call, Tom.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on Bruce there. I'm the same thing. Mistakes are mistakes. Trends are trends. So if somebody makes a mistake, whatever, I'm not going to give anybody grief about it, because from a leadership standpoint, I don't want anybody nitpicking and judging me, because something I'm going to do from day to day is going to go south from time to time. I don't want my team pointing the finger at me, So we do track them and watch for trends. And we've had some times where we've really pushed productivity and noticed that, okay, now that we're really pushing these guys to 100, 130%, we are starting to field more of those phone calls of, hey, you forgot this, or, you know what I mean? Just little silly things were starting to happen. So that's when we started to track it closer, just to see, we determined just how far we can push productivity before those mistakes start to happen. And then same thing, when we're pushing productivity, oftentimes we're ordering a part from somewhere we wouldn't normally order it from, because we want to empty that bay. So we kind of weigh out the risk versus reward of using some of these alternate part suppliers. So for those reasons, that's kind of why we track it. But once again, I would encourage everybody to not make a big deal out of comebacks. Just for us, whatever we got to do to make it right, whether it's our fault or not, half the time it's not. Fix it anyway. Just make it right. You'll make so much more money on the front end of taking care of people properly, that it don't matter what you take care of on the back end.
Great advice. Life happens, right? That was the life happens close. Tom, thanks so much. Russell, you have the last word.
So I'm going to take it in a slightly different direction here. Something that I picked up from Dennis Snow, a speaker, he was an exec over in Disney World, was what frustrates your customers. And if you have your new customers coming through the door, they've never worked with you before, what better way to build trust than to say, hey, let me ask you, what frustrates you at other shops? What brought you here? Right? So you know immediately how to handle those customers. Why did they come to you? And with your existing customers, send it out. I put together a little sheet, and if anybody would like it, just reach out to me. I'm happy to give it to you. It's what frustrates you about owning an automotive vehicle, and what frustrates you about having that vehicle serviced. Send it to your customers, get that feedback, and make changes. And what better way to build trust and make those people want to talk to you and open up to you than, look, I know that this is a frustrating thing to deal with. Owning a vehicle is frustrating. How can I make it better? That'll make them want to talk to you more. You're actually putting in that extra effort to learn why they don't like doing this, or what's difficult about this situation. So I would highly suggest figure out what's frustrating your customers, and with your new customers, figure out why they came to you. We want to hear the good things, right? But what are the bad things? What are the bad things? Why did they want to come to you?
Great point, guys. Thank you all so much. Tunnel Academy 224 on comebacks, prevention, reputation, costs. I think you nailed it. I think you brought some great insight to the audience. Bruce Howes, Atlantic Motor Car Center, Wiscasset. Did I say that right again?
Wiscasset, yeah, very good.
Wiscasset, Maine. Tom Lambert, Shade Tree Automotive in Layton, Utah, and Russell Crosby, Russ's Wrench in Clinton, New Jersey. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. Thanks for being here.
See you.